Hey garden friends, and welcome back to my channel, Our Country-ish Acre. It's been a couple weeks since I've been able to do a longer style video like this, but I wanted to kind of put something together because I finally finished my flower cart that I've been building, and this past weekend I was able to put it out for the first time. So it was really exciting. So I wanted to kind of pull together a video to show you all that and then just kind of wrap up that series. But I unfortunately, despite my best efforts, it was a bit of a rush process at the end. Our spring weather here has been completely wacky. We go from like 70-degree days to like 23-degree nights. And so it's been really difficult for the flowers to kind of work with that. And they almost grow way too fast when we have those really nice warm days. And then the risk of frost is just kind of frustrating to deal with. But the tulips and daffodils are kind of about 2 weeks ahead of schedule here than what I was expecting. So I thought I had probably 2 more weekends before I needed to finish the garden cart. But Mother Nature had other plans, and it was a little bit of a scramble at the end, just despite my best efforts. Fortunately, I had finished the roof like maybe a month ago, and so really all I had to do was just finish up the last little bits of detail work. So it wasn't terribly hard to do, but it was a little bit of time. Like it took a bit of time to do, and I was not really expecting that. But I'm excited to share the final product and then just kind of walk through how my first day out with the cart went. So as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I was able to finish adding the roof to the cart. In the last video, I kept saying nails for some reason. I definitely know the difference between a nail and a screw. I was holding screws. I don't know why my brain was stuck on saying nail, but I was able to get the correct roofing screws to attach the metal roof, and I just used these specialty fasteners that are made for like sheet metal. They're not technically roofing screws because they're not watertight, but I'm not putting the cart out when it's going to be wet and rainy and gross weather, so I'm not too worried about this using the most correct screws. So all I did was just drill those through. Fortunately, this worked out amazing. The size of the roof that I used, it was almost exactly the width of the cart, so I did not have to cut it. I just kind of eyeballed it so that the way the overhang on the top and the bottom was like to the naked eye pretty similar. And then unfortunately the length of the cart, the sheets were a little bit longer than the actual cart, so I did have to cut them with some tin snips, which was very much a hand workout. Those are very tough to cut. I struggled a lot. I had to take a couple breaks just because my hand kept cramping, but I got that done, and it looks fine. And then just because some of the edges were a little bit sharp, with it being metal, I did run a metal file over all of it just to kind of wear that down a little bit and make it a little bit more brunt and not as sharp. So that's kind of where we ended up there. And it looked great. It kind of stayed this way for a couple weeks. Seed starting got truthfully really in the way of that because it took up most of my free time. I had to do a lot of potting up, a lot of starting seeds. So kind of got put on the back burner, and then we had such a great stretch of weather, like warm weather, that the tulips just bolted right up, and they kind of forced my hand on that. So like I said, the night before I put the cart out, I was out there finishing the cart, putting on the final details. So it got done, but I was hoping to be a little bit better prepared with that. And then for the details that I just keep mentioning, I chose to do these little wooden letters that I got off Amazon, and I just painted them white. I wanted to do these, do the wood letters instead of stenciling it on, because I think the wood would just give it a little bit more dimension because it's standing out a little bit. Stenciling would have been fine, but I had already purchased the wood letters. So all I did was just paint them white, and then I used, I forget exactly what type of construction adhesive I used, but I just put some on the back and then kind of plopped them on the cart itself, and it seems to have held up really well. And then the only other bit that I had to do was just the sign that I wanted to put out that kind of talks about the Growing Kindness Project and why I'm doing this. And then I also wanted to make it abundantly clear, as if Free Flower Cart wasn't clear enough. I wanted to make sure people were aware that the bouquets really are free. I did put a caveat in there that if they wanted to donate, they were welcome to put it in. For the first day, I had a tip jar sitting out because the lockbox that I ordered didn't come in time from Amazon, but I have that now, so I have to put that on. But for this first day, I just had a little glass mason jar out that people left donations in, and I was really surprised that a lot of people contributed. I was not expecting that, but I was very pleasantly surprised, and that gives me, some money to put back into ordering bulbs for next year. So I finished the cart, as I said, the night before, the Friday before, and then I literally came home from work. I harvested as many tulips that were ready. I harvested a big tub of all the different daffodil varieties I have around my yard that were in bloom. Honestly, the daffodils, I'm happy that I grow so many different varieties because they really did the heavy lifting for the bouquets. I did have a good amount of tulips as well, but the daffodils for sure added something special for that. And then I even clipped a couple of my hellebore flowers, and I tucked those into some bouquets just to make them a little bit special. And not everyone was exactly the same. So I really liked doing that too, because then hopefully if someone likes a certain color scheme a little bit better, they were able to choose what they wanted. But I tried to make them, each bouquet, a bit unique and special in and of themselves. So I hope that that was conveyed. I unfortunately didn't get many videos of me actually, I didn't get any video of me arranging the bouquets. Honestly, I was working through it. I was kind of feeling a little bit stressed and like almost like I bit off more than I could chew. And filming was the last thing I had on my mind. I was just kind of like, all right, let's get through this. So I unfortunately didn't get any videos of that. I hope to do better next time. But each bouquet, I just kind of picked a few different stems that I thought looked good together. I rubber banded them, and then I wrapped them in some craft wrapping paper that I cut down to size, and then I designed and printed little flower care cards to tie onto them. So that way people that aren't experienced with cut flowers or aren't really sure like how to get them to last the longest in the vase, they had kind of some direction there. So that was really, I think they looked a little bit more professional than me just kind of throwing flowers out at the end of my driveway, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I like the way that this looked. It looks a little bit more polished. And then once I finished arranging all of the bouquets, I ended up with 10 of them. I put them into my cooler, which is actually just my husband's beer fridge. I cleaned out a shelf in there and I just put them all in there until the next morning. And you want to, if you have the capacity to put your flowers or your flower arrangements in the fridge, especially like overnight and things like that, it will make them last a little bit longer because flowers do, it slows down their wilting process. So if you have access to doing that and the space to do that, I would definitely encourage that. But so that's what happened the night before. I apologize that I didn't get much video. Like I said, I was a little bit rushed and stressed out, and I wish I could go back and redo it so you guys could come along with me, but I'll just have to make another video like that and show you. Then the next morning was the big day. I took my bouquets out of the cooler fridge and I arranged them on my flower cart and kind of got them ready. This I did get some good video of, so we're just gonna roll right into it and you can kind of come along with me and see how it went. So that was how I set up the cart. I think by like 2:30 that day, all of the bouquets had been claimed. I was really excited that people stopped and grabbed them. I even met like a really sweet neighbor lady who lives up the road, who she just came by and took a bouquet and introduced herself, and we just had a really good conversation about gardening and everything like that. So it was a really nice experience. I'm really happy that I did it. I just felt very like rejuvenated and like very good about the whole situation. So I was super pleased. I did think of, since it was my first time, I wasn't quite sure what to expect or how to put things together. So now that I've done this one time, I'm kind of reflecting on how I can make it better. And some of the things I thought of are, I had the cart, as you could see in the video, angled on one side of my driveway. And the reason I did it on that side was because that is the direction that most cars would approach our road from. Most turn off that our main road onto that road so they could see it very clearly that this is a cart that says free flower cart. It was very obvious what it was. Unfortunately, it faces the sun shines that way and faces that way. So all the bouquets got a little bit wilty towards middle end of day. So I'm going to have to put it on the other side of my driveway, which means that it's not going to be quite as obvious like the cart itself. I mean, you'll be able to see it still, obviously. You just won't read because it'll be facing the back. You'll see the back. You won't be able to read free flower cart. So what I'm going to have to do is come up with either a little like bifold sign or something like that you would see at like a bakery or a cafe that, would be like, hey, come on in. I'm thinking about making one of those that just says free flowers here or something like that. Or I might put on the back side of the cart, free flower cart. I haven't quite decided what I like better, but I definitely need something to kind of draw a little bit of attention to it in that way. But I definitely think putting it on the other side of my driveway with the back to the sun is going to help a lot with keeping the flowers cool and in the shade and not getting like wilted or blown out or anything like that. So that was one takeaway from that. And then the other takeaway is I need different containers. And I wasn't planning on using those pink containers anyway. It was just a case of I couldn't quite decide on what type of container I wanted to use, and I was kind of hem-hawing about what to order. And then suddenly I was like, oh shoot, I have to put this cart out because I have all these flowers ready to go. Let's just see what I have and make do. So the pink containers are definitely not going to stay. I need something that's a bit taller to kind of hold the flowers up a little bit better. And then another thing I need to do is I had each bouquet I had sitting in a styrofoam cup with a little bit of water in it. I need to either get taller cups or kind of figure out some other method for the bouquets that way, because they were a little bit flimsy and top heavy. So just a way to figure out how to make that a little bit better. But overall, I'm super pleased with how it went. I'm so excited. Like I mentioned, I just felt so good doing that, and it seemed like I got a really positive response to it as well. So I'm really excited to keep doing this throughout the summer, and I'm just really glad that I did it in the first place. And then I do have one more piece of really good news to share with you guys. So if you had followed some of my recent videos, you know that I ordered a redbud tree from a company. I got sent the wrong variety, so I returned it. And then I ordered the same variety from a company called Fast Growing Trees. They sent me the correct variety, and I was just very impressed and pleased with the tree that they sent, that I actually applied to become a brand ambassador for them. And I honestly was not expecting anything to come of it, but they did select me to become one of their brand ambassadors. So a part of this means I get a coupon code to share with you guys. So if you want to go on their website and order something from them, make sure to use the coupon code FGT OCA 20, and that will give you 20% off your order. I do get a small little commission from that, but you are saving 20%, which is awesome. And I can't speak enough about how great the tree that I got arrived, and just how healthy and how nice and everything. The shipping was phenomenal. If you've ordered plants online, you know that sometimes that can be a little bit iffy. They know what they're doing when it comes to packaging, so that's super great. But I do hope you use my code or check them out. And then I have lots of plans already in the works for some new garden projects because of that. So I hope you'll stick around and hit the subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out on those. But I'd love to hear in the comments below what you guys are getting up to in your gardens. Spring is, in full swing, so I know that there's always lots to be done around this time of year, and I'm just very curious to see how things are going in your garden, what your weather's been like. If you are kind of having a funky spring like I am, please feel free to put that in the comments below, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Until next time.